Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third and final installment of Protest and Praise, 250 Years of American Poetry. I'm Lucy Handley, Adult Programs Coordinator at the Ridgefield Library, and this program is made possible by the Friends of the Ridgefield Library. Thank you, friends. Our presenter, Barb Jenis, is an award-winning poet whose work has appeared widely in literary journals and anthologies, as well as in 3 chapbooks. As Poet Laureate of Ridgefield from 2020 until 2023, she founded the Poetry in the Garden series held annually in July at the Keeler Tavern Museum and History Center. Barb also curates and hosts the monthly Poems from Connecticut's Four Corners virtual series for Ridgefield Library. Thank you, Barb, and welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. And hello, everyone. Speaking of Poems from Connecticut's Four Corners, make sure you register for tomorrow night. We have a broadcast tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. A lot of things going on Wednesdays these days. So if you can't make it, we also record all of those episodes too. So I'm going to get started right away because we have a lot of ground to cover tonight. Let me see, where do I want to go? I want to go there. I want sound and share. Okay. And I'll make sure, can you all see that?
Yes.
Good, okay. No bars, Lucy? Do you have the two black?
No bars.
Excellent, wonderful. Well, welcome to session 3. And it's from World War II until the present day. Lots of, oh my gosh, so many important events and movements and everything got left out, but I tried to cover things that are of interest and also ones where I could find really wonderful poems, nice accessible poems. So here we go. First of all, if you missed session 1, it's now uploaded on the library YouTube channel. The link is there. If you want, I'm going to give my email address in just a couple of minutes. You can email me if you don't have time to capture the link now. There's also the recording of session 2, which was our last one. And by the way, thank you everyone for patience and coming around to session 3. I had a granddaughter born, so it was right around the time when we were supposed to be doing that 3rd session, so I asked to reschedule. Thank you for your patience. So then also, if you didn't receive either of the first 2 poetry packs, just email me. It's my name, barbjenis@gmail.com, and I'll get them right off to you. So good, let's get going. First off tonight, the poems of the Korean War. Now, David Halberstam, he's a journalist and a very well-known historian, known best for his work on the Vietnam War and civil rights, once wrote, quote, "America tolerated the Korean War while it was on, but couldn't wait to forget it once the war was over." That the poetry of the Korean War has been deemed insignificant and even non-existent is as much a reflection of attitudes about and ignorance of the Korean War itself as it is a reflection in the poetry. Still, any number of Korean War poems by such poets as William Childress, Howard Fast, Hedith Caruth, and Reg Sainer possess as much, if not even perhaps more, artistic value as any American poem of World War I, or even those of World War II and the Vietnam War. So it took a lot of digging, I have to admit. I had to really go into some databases and find some very obscure journals to find a good selection of Korean War poetry, but there are wonderful poems. To begin, William Childress, who was the son of poor migrant sharecroppers, but also a photojournalist in his adult life, is regarded by many as the foremost poet of the Korean War. And you have, I believe, 2 of his poems in your packet. We're only going to do one tonight to conserve time, but this I feel is a very, very powerful poem. So would anyone like to read Letter Home? Oh, the old.
I'll read it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, whoever that was, believe me, I have 8th grade wait time, so we could be here all night. I'm waiting for you. So whoever it was, Lisa, was it you who said you?
Yeah, I'll read it. I'll read it.
Okay.
I really like it. Letter Home by William Childress. Mother, they line the roads like broken stalks, children with bellies swollen, and oh, the flowers of their faces, petals all torn. and the flags of their threadbare garments. Mother, we give them everything in our packs, and still they moan, so sadly, more with eyes like stone. These kids will never sing again. Oh, Mother, wish me home with just one field in Kansas grain. What can I do for them?
Right. So he thinks of how he could feed them with just one field of Kansas grain. Beautiful poem. Let's move on to the next one. Thelma, were you offering to read?
Yeah,
Would you?
sure.
Oh, would you be willing to read? This one is from. It's kind of a little bit grisly. It's not as um, moving as well. It's moving, but this Korean litany
Oh,
was a
okay.
series of persona poems in the voice of
Lucy.
American soldiers who were
So
killed.
pretty.
Oh, whoever, could you?
I'm
Um,
It's
muting
actually
her.
very,
oh, okay. I think I muted the person who was speaking.
Okay.
Um, um, Howard Fast, who's actually better known as a novelist and a short story writer, wrote a whole series of persona poems in the voices of American soldiers who were killed in action in Korea. And these voices include a rifleman, a machine gunner, a medic, a tankman, and many more. And here we meet Gerald Cartwheel, the tankman. So, Thelma, if you would, please.
Yes, thank you. Uh, from Korean Litany by Howard Fast, Gerald Cartwheel, Tankman. The day my tank rolled through a village, flattening those flimsy houses, I saw a woman caught under a beam, screaming as the tank rolled over. On that day, I wrote to my congressman my free and democratic right. Was I sent here to do this kind of thing? Or tell me why? Or have I no right to know? Or do you know? I sought to no easy answer, knowing, as others don't, that things are not all black and white. Others ribbed me, scoffed, and said, "Tell it to the chaplain, Bob." I wonder what the answer would have been, and whether I would have felt at ease cooking in a burning tank and screaming for my mother.
Okay, so yeah, this whole series of poems um, are the last thoughts of these soldiers who were killed in action. So very powerful series.
Mhm.
Um,
The
Moving on
mother,
now.
we think both of them were thinking of their mother,
Yeah,
the two
yeah,
poems.
and I think that that's probably besides girls, either loved ones or girls. I think mothers. I can't tell you how many war poems make reference to mother. So, all right. So let's keep going here. The civil rights movement. As you can see in the next slide.
Barb, let me just
Yeah.
tell you that Howard Fast used to live in Richfield.
No
Oh,
kidding. How
Mhm.
cool is that? A lot of these poets were from Connecticut. I think maybe even William Childress was from Waterbury originally, although he lived out in the Midwest. But
He
that's
lived on
cool.
Florida Hill Road.
No kidding. How cool is that?
Yeah,
That's great. Thanks for letting us know.
you're
yeah.
welcome.
Boy, but okay. So as you can see, I mean, the late 50s, early 60s, straight through the end of the 60s, so much happened in terms of the civil rights movement. For everything from the Brown versus the Board of Education, which was supposed to desegregate schools, all the way through the assassination of Dr. King. The civil rights movement came to national prominence in the U.S. during the mid-50s and continued to challenge racial segregation and discrimination. Nonetheless, problems involving racial injustice persisted in subsequent decades, and the idea of true equality still remains elusive today, of course, and even more and more elusive, it seems. Okay, Rosa Parks. From 1993 to 1995, Rita Dove, the poet, served as Poet Laureate Consulate in Poetry to the Library of Congress. She was the first African American to be appointed to that really prestigious position. And just an interesting thing, yesterday was the 70th anniversary of Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on the bus. So a nice anniversary date. It was also, we'll talk a little later, World AIDS Day. So we'll get some HIV poems in a bit. But would anyone be willing to read this about Rosa?
I will, Barb.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
You mind? Rosa by Rita Dove. How she sat there, the time right, inside a place so wrong it was ready. That trim name with its dream of a bench to rest on, her sensible coat. Doing nothing was the doing, the clean flame of her gaze, carved by a camera flash. How she stood up when they bent down to retrieve her purse, that courtesy.
Oh, just beautiful. That line, doing nothing was the doing. Well, really, it captures what happened that day so well. Boy. All right, and then let's see. Just moving on before we get to the next poem, Amira Baraka, who was actually born Everett Leroy Jones, is widely recognized as the founder of the Black Arts movement in American literature, a movement which sought to elevate African American culture through various forms of artistic expression. Written in 1967, A Poem for Black Hearts serves as both a eulogy for Malcolm X and a rallying cry for African American men to honor his legacy by continuing the fight for civil rights. I had hoped to find a good recording of this. I'd like to have poems written by Black poets read in Black voices. I don't know if anyone would be willing to take it on. It's a beautiful poem.
I'll read it.
Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you, Barbara. Great.
A Poem for Black Hearts by Amiri Baraka. For Malcolm's eyes, when they broke the face of some dumb white man, for Malcolm's hands raised to bless us, all black and strong in his image of ourselves. For Malcolm's words, fire darts, the victor's tireless thrust, words hung above the world, change as it may, he said it. And for this, he was killed, for saying and feeling and being change, all collected hot in his heart. For Malcolm's heart, raising us above our filthy cities, for his stride and his beat and his address to the gray monsters of the world. For Malcolm's pleas for your dignity, Black men for your life, Black man for the filling of your minds with righteousness. For all of him dead and gone and vanished from us, and all of him which clings to our speech, Black God of our time. For all of him and all of yourself, look up, Black man, quit stuttering and shuffling. Look up, Black man, quit whining and stooping for all of him. For great Malcolm, a prince of the earth, let nothing in us rest until we avenge ourselves for his death. Stupid animals that killed him. Let us never breathe a pure breath if we fail. And white men call us faggots till the end of the earth.
Thank you. Excellent.
Wow.
I'm mistaken in saying it was for Malcolm X. It was for of course, Dr. King. So you can imagine the anger, and you'll see it in the next poem too. I'm going to actually, we'll do a Dudley Randall poem first, but when we get to a Nikki Giovanni poem in a bit here, you'll see the righteous anger that was felt when these great men were lost. So let's go on here to Ballad of Birmingham by Dudley Randall. He was Detroit's first poet laureate, and he founded a really pioneering publishing company called Broadside Press in 1965. Broadside published many leading African American writers, including Melvin Tolson, Audre Lorde, Sonia Sanchez, and Gwendolyn Brooks. His most famous poem is the Ballad of Birmingham, and you'll find it a little bit sing-songy, but it's definitely a very rich tribute. It was written in response to the 1963 bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, in which 4 little girls were killed. So who would like to read for us Ballad of Birmingham?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
Ballad of Birmingham by Dudley Randall. Mother dear, May I go downtown instead of out to play and march the streets of Birmingham in the Freedom March today? No, baby, no, you may not go, for the dogs are fierce and wild, and clubs and hoses, guns and jazz aren't good for a little child. But mother, I won't be alone. Other children will go with me and march the streets of Birmingham to make our country free. No, baby, no, you may not go, for I fear those guns will fire. But you may go to church instead and sing in the children's choir. She has combed and brushed her night dark hair, and bath was bittersweet, and John white gloves on her small brown hands, and white shoes on her feet. The mother smiled to know her child was in the sacred place, but that smile was the last smile to come up her face. For when she heard the explosion, her eyes grew wet and wild. She raced through the street of Birmingham calling for her child.
Boy, right? Oh. There's a wonderful book that I used to teach middle school English, and there was a wonderful book about this event. The rest of the book was, and I'm trying to remember the title, of course I can't, but the rest of the book was very funny. It reminded me a lot of the Christmas Story where the little kid got his tongue stuck on the icy telephone pole or parking meter or whatever it was. But the scene that describes this was written so beautifully and so powerfully. So the event definitely that is etched in history for sure. Okay, so this is the poem. We're going to jump ahead a few pages in your packet to the Dr. Martin Luther King page and take a look at From Reflections. It's a shortened version of a lyric, actually, written by Nikki Giovanni. Reflections on April 4, 1968. Giovanni gained initial fame in the late 1960s as one of the foremost authors of the Black Arts movement. Influenced by the Black Power movement of the period, her early work provides a very militant, as you'll see, African-American perspective, leading one writer to dub her the, quote, poet of the Black Revolution. In Reflections on April 4, 1968, Giovanni asks, "What can I, a poor Black woman, do to destroy America?" As the nation burned in sorrow and rage, the poet answered her poem's question in searing simplicity: I can kill. Such blunt language, she says, led her to being placed under surveillance by the government. And I love her quote. She said, "If you weren't being watched back then," she said, "you weren't doing your job." Through the years, the three-time winner of the NAACP Image Award has produced many collections of poetry and 11 illustrated children's books. She died on December 9th of just last year. We lost her very recently. So this, I do have, I hope, a good recording of. My links have not been working really well. You may hear it but not see it, but let's see if I can get it to play for us. Fingers crossed. Can you see it?
What can I, a poor Black woman, do to destroy America?
Yes, we could see it.
This is a question with appropriate variations being asked in every Black heart. There is one answer: I can kill. There is one compromise: I can protect those who kill. There is one cop-out: I can encourage others to kill. There are no other ways. The assassination of Martin Luther King is an act of war. And some hunky asked about the reaction. What do you people want? Isn't it enough that you killed him? You want to tell me how to mourn? You want to determine how I, a lover, should respond to the death of my beloved? May he rest in peace. May his blood choke the life of 100 million whites. May the warriors in the streets go ever forth into the stores for guns and TVs, for whatever makes them happy.
So anger, for sure. I can get out of that and go back to, I hope, go back to the presentation. Share, good. Nope, that's not it. Let me stop share. All right, sorry about that. Little technical snafus here. Okay, here we go. All right, so get back on the right page. Good. Okay, so moving on now. Okay, poems of the Vietnam War. Are you seeing the presentation now again, I hope?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, fought by American soldiers between 1955 and April of 1975, the Vietnam War, hold on, let me go back here. The Vietnam War exacted an enormous cost. Some 58,000 U.S. service members died, and the estimates of Vietnamese soldiers and civilians killed range from 970,000 to 3 million. Its end would precipitate the Vietnamese boat people crisis, as you may recall, which saw about 250,000 refugees perish at sea. 20% of South Vietnam's jungle was sprayed with toxic herbicides, leading to significant health problems that continue today for both the Vietnamese and for American soldiers who fought. Within the U.S., the war gave rise to Vietnam syndrome, an aversion to American overseas military involvement, which combined with the Watergate scandal of that period contributed to a crisis of confidence in the U.S. government. Very much like, unlike any other crisis that we've seen, although we do see some crises brewing now. Okay, so Earhart, W.D. Earhart, has been called the Dean of Vietnam War Poetry. Immediately upon graduating from high school in June of '66, he joined the U.S. Marines, serving 3 years, including 13 months in Vietnam, being there during the Tet Offensive. Earhart, an infantry sergeant, was awarded the Purple Heart for injuries he received while fighting. So this is, I think you may have more than one of his poems in your packet. This is, or maybe, you might, I'm not sure, I don't have it in front of me here, but this is just a gorgeous poem that he wrote called Beautiful Wreckage. Who would like to read this one for us?
Barb, I can do it.
Okay, please, Peter.
If I can make it through it.
Yeah.
Beautiful Wreckage by W.D. Earhart. What if I didn't shoot the old lady running away from our patrol, or the old man in the back of the head, or the boy in the marketplace? Or what if the boy, but he didn't have a grenade, and the woman in hue didn't lie in the rain in a mortar pit with 7 Marines just for food? Gaffney didn't get hit in the knee. Ames didn't die in the river. Sky didn't die in a medevac chopper between Con Thien and Da Nang. In Vietnamese, Con Thien means place of angels. What if it really was, instead of a place of rotting sandbags, incoming heavy artillery, rats and mud? What if the angels were Ames and Sky, or the lady, the man, and the boy, and they lifted Gaffney out of the mud and healed his shattered knee? What if none of it had happened the way I said? Would it all be a lie? Would the wreckage be suddenly beautiful? Would the dead rise up and walk?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Yeah, of course, war poems tend to really capture the horror of being an active service person. But yeah, some of the ones that I've selected, I apologize, I guess, for choosing ones that really just go right to your gut. But okay, here's another one.
But isn't that the point?
Yeah, right. That's how poetry can change us.
Yep.
How any art can change us is to go to the gut. Whenever I think of the Vietnam War, I think of that incredible, there's a fight over which Pulitzer Prize winning photographer actually took it, of the little girl who had been napalmed, running down the road toward the camera, completely naked, trying to stop the burning. She'd already pulled off her clothes that were drenched in napalm, which burns you. But just, the horror, to quote to quote the movie. What was the movie? The horror, and also anyway. I'm sorry.
Apocalypse Now.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Yusef Communica is one of my favorite poets. He is really kind of thought of as he's a Pulitzer Prize winner and a Vietnam veteran. He captures not only the Black experience in places and times ranging from the rural South before the Civil Rights era, where he grew up, to his experience as a soldier during the Vietnam War. His ode to the maggot revisits the tradition of apostrophe in literature, wherein the speaker elevates an object often despised, a maggot, for instance, into a symbol of godlike power. Facing It, which is in your packet, we're not going to look at it, but Facing It, another Communica poem, masterfully captures the experience of visiting the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. But who would anyone dare to read Ode to the Maggot for us?
I will. He's one of my
Okay.
favorite poets.
Thanks, Jane.
Brother of the blowfly and Godhead, you work magic over battlefields in slabs of bad pork. And flop houses. Yes, you go to the root of all things. You are sound and mathematical. Jesus Christ, you're merciless with the truth. Ontological and lustrous, you cast spells on beggars and kings. Behind the stone door of Caesar's tomb, or a split trench in a field of ragweed. No decree or creed can outlaw you as you take every living thing apart. Little master of earth, no one gets to heaven without going through you first.
One of the most memorable lines of contemporary poetry are those last two lines. No one gets to heaven without going through you first. Just incredible. Okay, so we move on with more memorable moments in history. Not always happy ones, but the Kennedy assassinations. And I'm sure a lot of you remember it too. I can still remember my mother sitting on our couch, glued to our black and white RCA TV, as a horse-drawn caisson carried President Kennedy's flag-draped casket down the White House Drive, past parallel rows of soldiers bearing the flags of all 50 states, then along Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol Rotunda to Lions State. The only sounds on Pennsylvania Avenue as the cortege made its way to the Capitol were the sounds of the muffled drums and the clacking of horses' hooves. I remember that so vividly, including the riderless horse Blackjack, who there's another wonderful poem about the assassination where it describes as the horse as dancing, and it really was. It was just an incredible image. My mother wept, just as she did during the entire 8-hour televised funeral train ride that carried Senator Robert F. Kennedy's coffin from New York to Washington, D.C. You never forget moments like those, by the human tragedy of a family losing two sons to gun violence in less than 5 years. And of course, the Kennedy tragedies continued from there. You know, John Jr. Yeah, just a lot of tragedies in the family. So, I think, yes, I do. This one, these two poems that we're going to take a look at, they're both short. One is November 25th, 1963 by William Butler, and the other is Bulletin by Chana Fairstein. They both capture that shock and, like dazedness that the whole world went through following these two assassinations, and the mourning that's also everyone was feeling. Let me start with, you won't see an image. This was actually a Smithsonian recording. What happened was a couple of editors found many tributes and eulogies written and published in newspapers all over the country and pulled them together into an anthology called Of Poetry and Power, which is very hard to find if you can get it. It's all eulogies to some poems in tribute to Kennedy's presidency, but also many eulogies commemorating his assassination. And this one is just haunting. I'm not sure who read it, but let's see if we can get it to go here.
Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name even if you're not ready to launch your business. With Wix, you can...
There we go.
Drums, drums, I too am dead. I breathe no breath, but only dread. I have no soul, but lay my head upon his soul, and on that bed I stop. Drums in heartbeat cadence drill his life away, my life is still. My heart drums down my wit, my will, and with his cadence mounts the hill and stops. He stops, I stop. He ends, I end. He will not heal, I will not mend. He goes alone, I take no friend. His God is mine, he kneels, I bend. All stops. And that is all of me tonight. I do not want tomorrow's light. I do not want the sound or sight of time no more. These words I write and stop.
Okay. Let's see if I can get us back to the presentation. Okay. This poem too, very short, definitely captures, just that it was everywhere. And I'm sure a more vivid memory of the same sort of thing was with 9/11, where it just wherever you turned, there was announcements and signs and postings trying to find people. And so this one, Bulletin by Chana Fairstein. Would anyone care to read this for us?
I'll read it.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Jennis.
Okay, you're welcome. Bulletin by Shauna Farstein. Is dead, how old the radios sound the same. The static in our seed is dead. We heard again. We peck at the words like bran, strung on a string of air. Is dead again, is dead. Too rhythmic for despair. Our faces are all the same. Learning to taste the word, lockjawed with awkwardness, is dead. We know, we heard.
Yeah. So that sort of staccatic, distractedness of what happens to your brain when these things happen in our society. So another very interesting poem. Okay, so The Lowering by Mae Swenson is an original and important, she was an original and really important 20th century poet. She was the eldest of 10 children in a Mormon household where Swedish was spoken and English was the second language. Although her conservative family struggled to accept that she was a lesbian, they remained close throughout her life. I'm going to mute a couple of people here, if you don't mind. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Much of her later poetry was devoted to children. She also translated the poems of Swedish Nobel laureate Thomas Tranströmer. In The Lowering, Svensson combines anaphora, which is the repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of neighboring lines, and epiphora, which I had actually never heard of before. It's also called epistrophe, which is the repetition of a word or phrase at the end of successive lines. So another term for your poetry notes. So again, epiphora or epistrophe. And she uses this both at the beginning, this repetition at the beginning of her lines and the end of her lines to a really powerful effect. So if anyone would be willing, we'll read The Lowering by Mae Swenson. Anyone?
I'll read it.
I will.
Wait, Julia, go ahead. And then Patty will get you next.
Okay, thank you. The Lowering by Mae Swenson. The flag is folded lengthwise and lengthwise again, folding toward the open edge, so that the union of stars on the blue field remains outward in full view. A triangular folding is then begun at the striped end by bringing the corner to the folded edge to the open edge. The outer point, turned inward along the open edge, forms the next triangular fold. The folding continued so until the end is reached. The final corner tucked between the folds of the blue union. The form of the folded flag is found to resemble that of a three-cornered pouch or thick cocked hat. Take this flag, John Glenn, instead of a friend, instead of a brother, Edward Kennedy. Take this flag. Instead of a father, Joe Kennedy. Take this flag. This flag instead of a husband, Ethel Kennedy. Take this flag. This 9 times folded red, white, striped, star-spotted blue flag, tucked and pocketed neatly. Nation, instead of a leader, take this folded flag. Robert Kennedy, coffin without coverlet, beside this hole in the grass, beside your brother, John Kennedy, in the grass. Take, instead of a country, this folded flag. Robert Kennedy, take this hole in the grass. Oh.
Yeah. So the first part starts out very didactic, just literally taking you through the way that the flag is folded and presented eventually to the family member. But boy, that second stanza just gets so powerful. You know, this is all that you have. This is what's left. Take this flag, this folded flag. So, and then for the deceased, for Robert Kennedy in this instance, all that was left to him was the hole beside his brother. So really powerful poem. May Swenson rocks, I'll tell you. Okay, so, oh, this is fun. This is kind of an interesting section here. I never really was aware that feminism has come in waves. I mean, I always thought of feminism as, you know, female power or however you want to perceive it. But there's actually at least 4 waves. It's a bit reductive, but many scholars agree that there have been at least 4 waves of feminism. Some poets, including Anne Bradstreet in the 1600s and Phyllis Wheatley of the Revolutionary War period, are considered the predecessors. So they're even before the first wave. The first wave of feminism is believed to have started around 1848, often tied to the first formal women's rights convention in Seneca Falls. And the subsequent years of suffragism. Remember, I don't know who was here last time, but Alice Duer Miller with her really scathing "Are women people?" Satires. Anyway, and then also Emily Dickinson and Elizabeth Barrett Browning in the Civil War years were early first wave feminist poets. Gertrude Stein and Edna St. Vincent Millay picked up the gauntlet in the 1900s. Then Muriel Rukeyser, Gwendolyn Brooks, and Marianne Moore kept the flame burning in the 30s and 40s. The second wave, which is perhaps the wave my poetry, some feminist poetry is most familiar with, is believed to have taken place between the early 60s to the late 1980s. The wave is thought to have been inspired by the civil rights movement and by Betty Friedan, the author of The Feminine Mystique, which I'm sure we all read in college. Some important legislation, including the Equal Pay Act of '63 and the Supreme Court's granting of a woman's right to terminate pregnancy in the first trimester, the recently overturned Roe v. Wade, were sociopolitical achievements of this time. Major poets of the second wave included Denise Levertov, Maya Angelou, Sylvia Plath, May Swenson, Lucille Clifton, Alice Nutley, and others. The third wave spanned, I know I'm getting carried away here with all these waves. This was really the age of mass media and technology, where young feminists saw themselves as more media savvy than the feminists of their mother's generation. One of those defining moments of the third wave was when allegations were made against Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas. So it was really almost like the first Me Too. Anita Hill, who was a co-worker of his, claimed that Thomas had sexually harassed her years prior. The third wave was pro-sex, defended pornography, sex work and intercourse, and marriage, and reduced the stigma surrounding sexual pleasure. Adrienne Rich, Ann Carson, Eileen Miles, and C.D. Wright are some of the better known third wave feminist poets. So anyway, the fourth wave is what's happening now, and it's really built around calling out behaviors that are anti-gender equality, anti-civil rights, and it really was the birth of the real global Me Too movement, which happened in, as you may recall, January of 2017 when President Trump took the reins the first time. The Me Too movement, as you are aware, I'm sure, it's used. Women in 85 countries at least have shared experiences of their widespread incidents of sexual violence and creating solidarity internationally. So anyway, we're going to stick with a couple of just 3 poems because there are so many wonderful poems. We'll start with this wonderful one, a second wave poem by Mae Swenson, very creatively created on the page. Let me get my faces out of the way here. I love these poems that can be read in different ways. This one kind of reads down on one side and then up to the top of the second side on the right and then down that side. And you get the feeling of rocking, which is very intentional, very sexual. So Women by Mae Swenson. I'll take this one just to keep the ball rolling here. Women should be pedestals, moving to the motions of men. The glass thing in the toy room. The pegs of their ears, so familiar and dear to the trusting fists to be chafed. Egos dismount and the legs stride away. Immobile, sweet-lipped, sturdy and smiling, women should always be waiting. Or they should be little horses, those wooden, sweet, old-fashioned, painted rocking horses, the gladdest things in the playroom. Feelingly, and then unfeelingly, to be joyfully ridden, rockingly ridden until the restored ego dismounts and the legs stride away. Willing to be set in motion, women should be the pedestal, and I can't see the last lines. What does it say? Of men to men. So I love that. I mean, just very imaginative. And also, I mean, you could call it a concrete poem. Concrete poems take the form of what they're describing. And so definitely this one has the whole rocking thing going. So very cool. Okay, so second wave. Let's see here. Another very famous, of course, second wave feminist poet, Sylvia Plath. This is one of her more famous poems. I'm sure you may have encountered it if you took contemporary poetry or modern poetry classes rather in college. But who would read The Applicant for us?
I'll read it.
There you go, Patty. You got it.
The Applicant by Sylvia Plath. Toggle annotations. First, are you our sort of person? Do you wear a glass eye, false teeth or a crutch, a brace or a hook, rubber breasts or a rubber crotch? Stitches to show something's missing? No? No? Then how can we give you a thing? Stop crying. Open your hand. Empty? Empty? Here is a hand to fill it and willing to bring teacups and roll away headaches and do whatever you tell it. Will you marry it? It is guaranteed. To thumb shut your eyes at the end and dissolve of sorrow, we make new stock from the salt. I notice you are stark naked. How about this suit? Black and stiff, but not a bad fit. Will you marry it? It is waterproof, shatterproof, proof against fire and bombs through the roof. Believe me, they'll bury you in it. Now your head, excuse me, is empty. I have the ticket for that. Come here, sweetie, out of the closet. But what do you think of that? Naked as paper to start, but in 25 years she'll be silver, in 50 gold, a living doll everywhere you look. It can sew, it can cook, it can talk. It works. There is nothing wrong with it. You have a hole, it's a poultice. You have an eye, it's an image. My boy, it's your last resort. Will you marry it, marry it, marry it?
Thank you. Good reading. Wow. Wow. By the way, I don't think I have it in the presentation here, but if you read the Dickinson poem, it's called "They Shut Me Up in Prose," and the whole idea of that poem is the idea that oh, you're a woman, you can't be a poet. Only men have the intelligence and the wit to be a poet. So if you read it, of course, it's the Dickinson poem is quite short. She rages against the idea that they will only take take prose from her, that they don't want to see her verse. So very cool. I don't think we have. No, I trimmed things back, sadly, but that's a wonderful poem. There are several other feminist poems in the packet too. Okay, so the Apollo 11 lunar landing. I'm sure many of you, I'm kind of eyeballing the crowd here. Most of you, not all of you, will remember the lunar landing during the mid 1960s. Now, lots and lots of Black Americans held sit-ins and marches and boycotts and demonstrations against the space program for distracting the nation from poverty and from a variety of environmental problems affecting inner cities. Malcolm X derided the white man's space program in his autobiography, and Martin Luther King Jr. caustically told Congress in 1966, "In a few years, we can be assured that we will set a man on the moon. With an adequate telescope, he will be able to see the slums on Earth with their intensified congestion, decay, and turbulence." Whitey on the Moon. I love Gil Scott-Heron. He's a spoken word artist, and anyway, it's a spoken word poem by Gil Scott-Heron, which was released in his debut album Small Talk at 125th and Lenox in 1970. Accompanied by conga drums, Scott-Heron's narrative tells of medical debt, high taxes, and poverty experienced at the time of the Apollo moon landing. The poem critiques the resources spent on the space program while Black Americans were experiencing social and economic disparities at home. So we get to hear Gil Scott-Heron in a delightful rendition. So here we go, I hope.
This is the quickest way to clear out stuck poop.
I have to.
Oh, that's all we have to worry about. Is stuck poop.
Stuck. Stop!
Oh my!
Are you trying to kill us? What? Fiber helps you poop.
Sorry.
No. Fiber bulks up stuck poop. It's like
where is my stop button?
Adding more cars to
That's hilarious.
Okay, there we go.
We have a poem here.
Okay, here we go.
It's called Whitey on the Moon. And it was inspired by some whiteys on the moon. So I want to give credit where credit is due. All right. It's a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know, the man just upped my rent last night, cause Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, cause Whitey's on the moon? Well, I was already giving him 50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. Was all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon? How come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, air mail special. To Whitey on the moon.
There we go. All right, so let me get this back down. Okay. You can see here some of the protests that took place $12 a day to feed an astronaut. We could feed a starving child for $8. So yeah, definitely. Also, just in your packet, there's also a W.H. Auden poem that kind of also addresses the same thing, where, this is ridiculous. Well, yeah, sure, it's a great way to show off technology. But anyway, a lot of people celebrated it. I remember watching it on the touchdown of the lunar module Eagle, and it was July 20th, 1969. So I was a sweet young thing then. But in Moon Landing by Auden, he balances a begrudging acknowledgement of the achievement scale with a deep questioning of its underlying motives and ultimate significance. The poem's tone is initially sarcastic, acknowledging the public's celebratory mood before shifting to a more introspective and critical stance. So please read Moon Landing on your own. It's in your packet. Okay, so Stonewall. Stonewall Uprising, and I'll tell you a little story about this. I didn't realize I put out a call for poems about what I called the Stonewall riots, and I was confronted by a professor, an English professor, saying, we don't call them the riots, they're called uprisings. And one of the poems we're going to read, this "We Don't Call It a Riot" by Chad Frame, he read this poem, although it was the 55th anniversary of the Stonewall, in the events at the Stonewall Inn. But he wrote this poem. He was poet laureate of his town, and he did this poem for the celebration. And he said in some texts that I found, quote, "I live in a small town in suburban Pennsylvania, and growing up here as a gay man, I never thought I'd see the day when an event like this would be held, let alone be invited to participate. But when I was sent the prepared remarks of the commissioners beforehand and saw that there were repeated references to the Stonewall riots, I knew I needed to address it, even if it ruffled some bureaucratic feathers. Veterans of Stonewall have repeatedly stated that they prefer the term uprising or rebellion. And so at the end of the ceremony, when it was my turn to speak, I read this poem. And later, when the local news reported on the event, they used the right terms. Every education and breakthrough is a victory, no matter how small. So this was in the words of Chad Frame, who wrote this poem. Who would like to read a good chunk of it or the whole thing?
I can do it. I can do it.
Oh, Sandy, thank you.
Sure. We Don't Call It a Riot by Chad Frame for the Stonewall in New York, 1969. That summer was an oven on self-clean, beyond hot. The cops raided clubs for weeks, huddled, frightened men and women and women and human, held at the end of a nightstick in contempt, being held in the arms of a lover in a brick-faced bar on Christopher Street the night they'd had enough of this treatment. We don't call it a riot. No, riot. Noun. Violent disturbance of the peace by a crowd. Like the peace of gathering with your friends and family in a home, away from home. The peace of the jukebox playing Let the Sun Shine. A trusted friend behind the bar mixing you a cocktail, of dancing free and uninhibited when the crowds march in to bash down the door, bash in your skull, bash open the peace, hard fought one, so you can be standing here, unafraid for the first time in your life, perhaps, and not the family who threw you out on the street, not the government who threw your card to the draft, not the man and woman, and not the men and women who threw slurs at you walking down that same street, not the church who threw fire and brimstone proclamations, nor these thugs marching heavy-booted with their badges and balled fists can take it away from you. Each brick of this place is home. Each bottle is nourishment. Fingers close around them reflexively. And given fight or flight, when you've always picked the latter, and where has that ever gotten you anyway? Fingers close around bricks and bottles, words of defiance bubble up to your lips from somewhere deep in the boiling cauldron of your belly. You find the voice to say, no, we don't call this a riot. Call this being cornered and lashing out. Call this being pushed to the brink, past it. Call this resisting systemic oppression. Call this a rubber band stretched to snapping. Call this a blessing that I can stand here 55 years later unmolested and read you this beneath the flag flying my colors, all of our colors. No one can wrest a rainbow from the sky. Call this a memorial for everyone whose sacrifice has gifted us the life and freedom to stand here proud, and call this what it really is. It's not a riot, it's rebellion, and it's not finished until we can all stand here together, hand holding hand, and simply call it love.
Beautiful reading. Wonderful. Wonderful poem. Okay, leading right. Oh, by the way, in your packet, a wonderful poem by Frank O'Hara, who was gay. I didn't mean to make that sound like a big surprise. He lived in East the Village from 1959 until 1963. He met his longtime partner, Vincent Warren, a Canadian ballet dancer, in the summer of '59. The openness of sexuality in the poem At the Old Place is why the poem, although written in 1955, was not actually published until after O'Hara's death in 1966. So coming out in poetry even was a dangerous thing. So by the way, in your packet, I have an asterisk next to, there's a section where the one speaker is saying to another, let's go to ATOP. And I put an asterisk there with a footnote that I believe got left off your copies, and that is the abbreviation for At the Old Place. So beautiful poem, very beautiful poem about love and joy, beautiful joy. Okay, so the AIDS crisis. I remember I was working in New York when this really blew up, and it decimated over the years the cultural and art scene in New York. So devastating. It was in let me go here. I think yes. In November of 1990, Life magazine published this haunting photograph, excuse me, of David Kirby being comforted by his father as he lay dying from AIDS. The photograph, shot by Therese Frere, quickly became one of the most powerful images of the era. It transformed public awareness, ignited activism, and helped shift conversations around compassion, healthcare, and social responsibility. David's family later said they agreed to the photo because they wanted people to see the truth, no matter how painful it was. More than 3 decades later, the image remains a defining symbol of the AIDS crisis and a reminder of the lives lost and the humanity often overlooked, even to this day. We didn't celebrate, or as a nation, World AIDS Day yesterday because of how humanity is often overlooked. So anyway, Mark Doty, National Book Award winner Mark Doty, who did an incredible reading at the Poetry in the Garden Festival last summer here in Ridgefield, is one of the first poets to openly address the AIDS crisis in his work. After meeting his first great love, Wally Roberts, in the early 1980s, the two gay lovers lived together for 12 years in Manhattan and Provincetown. Wally's illness and eventual death from AIDS in 1994 was the central event in Doty's young life as both a person and as a poet. Published in 1987, Doty's collection Turtle Swan turned the gay experience into an example of how to suffer and then transcend suffering. In 1993, My Alexandria, another incredible collection. In that book, Dodie confronted the pain of life as seen through the prism of AIDS. So this poem is just a heartbreaker too. Who would read for us The Embrace by Mark Dodie?
I would, Barb.
Oh, thank you, Jean.
The Embrace by Mark Dodie. You weren't well or really there, just a little tired, your handsomeness tinged by grief or anticipation, which brought to your face a thoughtful, deepening grace. I didn't for a moment doubt you were dead. I knew that had to be true still, even in the dream. You'd been out at work maybe, having a good day, almost energetic. We seemed to be moving from some old house where we'd lived, boxes everywhere, things in disarray. That was the story of my dream. But even asleep, I was shocked out of the narrative by your face. The physical fact of your face, inches from mine, smooth shaven, loving, alert. Why so difficult remembering the actual look of you? Without a photograph, without strain, so that when I saw your unguarded, reliable face, your unmistakable gaze, opening all the warmth and clarity of warm brown tea, we held each other for the time the dream allowed. Bless you. You came back so I could see you once more, plainly, so I could rest against you without thinking this happiness lessened anything, without thinking you were alive again.
Oh, just gorgeous. Thank you. Wonderful reading, Jean. Oh, boy. Oh, there's Moon Landing. I'm so, kind of out of order there. We aren't going to read that, but okay. So, also in your packet, Marie Howe, beloved poet. She also read it here in Ridgefield a couple of years ago, 2 summers ago. Marie lost her younger brother John to AIDS-related complications in 1989. A few years later, she wrote to him in a poem in the form of a letter. Her collection, What the Living Do, shares the title with this poem. In the poem, Howe eloquently deals with the deeply emotional impact of incest and death on her life from childhood to adulthood. That is in the whole collection, a beautiful collection. In 1995, Howe co-edited with Michael Klein a collection of essays, letters, and stories entitled In the Company of My Solitude, American Writing from the AIDS Pandemic. Please take time to read What the Living Do. You may have seen it posted all over social media in recent days, especially yesterday during World AIDS Day. It's kind of the defining poem of the AIDS and HIV awareness movement, and it's a beautiful poem. Okay, so on to Kent State. The Kent State killing of 4 and wounding of 9 unarmed college students by the Ohio National Guard on the Kent State University campus took place on May 4th, 1970. It was during a rally opposing the expanding U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, which had bled over into Cambodia, as well as protesting the draft and the National Guard presence on their campus. 28 National Guard soldiers fired about 67 rounds in 13 seconds, killing 4 students and wounding 9 others, one of whom sustained permanent paralysis. Donald N. Hassler, whose poem we'll take a look at, this wonderful sonnet, was a professor of English at Kent State University during the deadly protest. In May of 1990, 20 years after the shootings, more than 300 poets from around the nation gathered in the Kent State campus to remember the students injured and slain on the Kent State campus, as well as 2 students shot just 10 days later at Jackson State College in Mississippi, which people tend to forget about. Hassler subsequently edited A Gathering of Poets, which was an anthology which presented 147 of the poems written about these two events. So May 4th, 1970, and you'll notice 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, it is indeed a sonnet. Would anyone be willing to read this for us?
I'll read it.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Jenny.
May 4th, 1970. We have wasted our lives, as James Wright said he did on Bookish Matters. We are lost in John Barth's funhouse. Design of Robert Frost has been our creed, and now 4 kids are dead. We talk too much. Our wives have learned to dread the nights of mental exercise. The cost may be too great as wrinkled sheets are tossed away for waste. And now 4 kids are dead. But what else could we do? The sonnet form won't let us drive our horses roughly shod or bull our way through virgin fields of hay. Analysis is all that we can lay against the darkness and an absent God. We save what we can in the wasting storm.
Thank you, Jenny. So here's a professor saying we were preoccupied with such stupid stuff, the design of Robert Frost poems, and I'm sure, John Barth's Lost in the Funhouse book, which was very popular in that era. So it just shows you how things that happen suddenly shatter your awareness of what's important. So, okay, let's keep going. Poems of school shootings and gun violence. You might notice that I included 3 pages of poems headlined School Shootings, Gun Violence in this packet, more than any other topic. Are you surprised? Check any timeline of key American events since 1999, and even before, but primarily since Columbine, and you'll find an ever-increasing abundance of gun-related mass casualties. The United States averages almost 50,000 deaths from firearms each year. From 2016 onwards, firearms were the most used murder weapon in the nation by far. In addition, the number of younger Americans emphasizing the reduction of gun violence and mass shootings is one of the most important issues of their generation. I don't know if any of you have seen, there's a wonderful new documentary called Thoughts and Prayers that's streaming on HBO. I think you can watch it online through NPR too. But it focuses on the effects of lockdown drills on young kids, on the psyches of young students, and highlights, there's one girl in there in particular who's just totally fatalist about, I'm going to get shot. We might as well learn how to do this because sooner or later somebody's going to walk in my school and kill us. So sad. But it also highlights the creation of active shooter preparedness products, from bulletproof backpacks to desks that can be turned over and used as shields. It's a $3 billion industry. How insane is that? Yet despite raising rates of gun violence and the crippling effects that it brings to bear on our young people, many Americans still vehemently protect their constitutional right to bear arms.
There's a really good NPR story with the filmmakers that are a husband and wife team, actually. I just heard it this week, actually, or a little earlier this week. So,
yeah.
Or maybe late last week. Time is a little elusive.
A little wonky these days, I know.
Yeah.
Again, it's called Thoughts and Prayers.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if you Google it, if you're interested in watching it, they'll tell you where you can stream it, either online or on TV on one of the many channels. So this next poem, Letter Beginning with Two Lines by Czesław, I'm sorry, I pronounce this so poorly, Mieliusz, by Matthew Olsman, one of my favorite poets. Who would read this one for us? And you don't need to say the title again, because I did so poorly with it. Who would read this for us? By the way, this is not the entire poem. Matthew Olsman is such a wonderful conversational poet who, this is actually only about half of the poem, who just tells these engaging stories that surprise you and move you. But who would read this for us? It goes fast.
I can do it.
Okay. Thank you, Lance.
You whom I could not save, listen to me. Can we agree Kevlar backpacks shouldn't be needed for children walking to school? Those same children also shouldn't require a suit of armor when standing on their front lawns, or snipers to watch their backs as they eat at McDonald's. They shouldn't have to stop to consider the speed of a bullet or how it might reshape their bodies. But one winter, back in Detroit, I had one student who opened a door and died. It was the front door of his house, but it could have been any door, and the bullet could have written any name. The shooter was 13 years old and was aiming at someone else. But a bullet doesn't care about aim. It doesn't distinguish between the innocent and the innocent. And how was the bullet supposed to know this child would open the door at the exact wrong moment because his friend was outside and screaming for help? Did I say I had one student who opened a door and died? That's wrong. There were many. The classroom of grief had far more seats than the classroom for math, though every student in the classroom for math could count the names of the dead.
That's Matthew Olsman. He, by the way, is married to another incredible poet, Vivi Francis. And I think they both are at Princeton. I'm not sure. They were some years ago, but both incredible poets. Okay, this one, another incredible poem. As you'll see, Clint Smith III, who wrote it, was the 2014 National Poetry Slam champion, a staff writer for The Atlantic, in which this poem, The Gun, first appeared. Oh, that's what he does now. I'm sorry. The poem describes a school shooting from the perspective of a child. However, the central character, as well as his fellow classmates, are all referred to as the gun. The gun is assigned human traits and actions. It hears, it thinks, it texts, it hugs, it has hands to put on its head. So I will have this. This is actually Clint Smith reading his poem, The Gun. I hope.
The gun. The gun heard the first shot. The gun thought it was a bursting pipe. The gun heard the second shot, and the third, and the fourth. The gun realized this was not a pipe. The gun's teacher told everyone to get on the ground. The gun's teacher went to lock the door. The gun saw glass break, and the teacher slump, and bleed, and fall silent. The gun texted its parents and said, "I love you. I'm so sorry for any trouble I've caused all these years. You mean so much to me. I'm so sorry." The gun thought it would never leave the classroom. The gun moved to a closet filled with several other shaking guns. The gun texted its best friend in the group chat to see if they were okay. The gun waited on a response. The gun received one. The gun did not receive another. The gun waited for an hour. The gun heard the door kicked open. The gun was still in the closet and didn't know who had entered the room. The gun thought this was the end. The gun thought of prom and graduation and college and children and all the things the gun would never have. The gun heard more bullets. The gun heard he's down. The gun climbed out of the closet. The gun put its hands on its head. The gun walked outside. The gun saw cameras. The gun hugged its sobbing mother and cried into her arms. The gun heard thoughts and prayers. The gun heard Second Amendment. The gun heard lone wolf. The gun texted its friend again. The gun waited for a response. The response never came.
All right. Oy.
Mm.
I think I have another. Oh, we're going to skip over. There was one poem about the introduction of the World Wide Web, which was definitely a key moment in our history. It's called Reasons to Log Off, and it definitely gives you that feeling of, oh, why am I doing this? This is not a good thing. So, but please read that on your own time. We'll move on to the tragedies of 9/11. I doubt there's anybody here tonight who needs an introduction to the events of that day. I'm not sure that each of you can recall vividly, or I am sure rather that you can recall vividly exactly what you were doing when you got the news. I was a first-year teacher, barely 3 days into my new career teaching 7th graders, when a student courier brought a note to my door that read simply, "World Trade Towers attacked." I thought at first it was just a test of my response to emergencies. I soon learned that it was no test. The students in that classroom are now approaching 40, and I wonder how they relate the events of that day to their own children. We'll read 2 shorter poems that are included in your packet, but please read Alabanza by National Book Award winner Martina Spada, who was also at the Poetry in the Garden Festival last summer. It's a powerful poem, a powerful tribute to the 43 members of the hotel employees and restaurant employees Local 100 who were working at Windows on the World and who lost their lives in the attack on the World Trade Center. This one by Michael Salkman, September Sonnet. Who would read this one for us? It's a nice, short, but very, very memorable poem. Sonnet. Oh, I'll go. September Sonnet. Auden was right. Our buildings grope the sky for certainty, but are dumb and blind. In the fierce limbus of my eye, the plummeting birds burn still. Asbestos rains and twisted steel falls in a broth of jet fuel, cable wrap, and mineral dust. It bathes the snouts of corpse-hunting dogs and spatters our helmeted Nimrods. Who stoked these fires while we slept? Who blew on the embers filling September with regret? And who will be consoled if irony dies 1,000 deaths? Not you or I. Lucille Clifton. This is a part of an incredible series. Each day during the week between Tuesday, September 11th, and sundown on Monday, September 18th, which was Rosh Hashanah in that year, Lucille Clifton wrote a short poem encapsulating her grief and pondering the American guilt that helped spur the attacks, noting in her poem Friday, September 14th, 2001, quote, "It is treason to remember what have we done to deserve such villainy." Oh, I'm sorry, it should be phrased as a question. Is it treason to remember what we have done to deserve such villainy? Nothing, we reassure ourselves. Nothing. This powerful series is titled September Sweet, and the first poem that we have here is not included in your packet. I decided to include it because it's so perfect. Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. Who would read this for us?
I will, Barb.
Okay, thank you.
Thunder and lightning, and our world is another place. No day will ever be the same. No blood untouched. They know this storm is otherwheres, Israel, Ireland, Palestine. But God has blessed America, we sing. And God has blessed America to learn that no one is exempt. The world is one. All fear is one. All life, all death, all one.
And her Wednesday poem in the same series. I'll read this. I know we have to start picking up the pace a little bit here. I apologize. But Wednesday, September 12th, 2001. This is not the time, I think, to note the terrorist inside who threw the brick into the mosque. This is not the time to note the ones who cursed God's other name, the ones who threatened they would fill the streets with Arab children's blood. And this is not the time, I think, to ask who is allowed to be American. America, all of us gathered under one flag, praying together safely, warmed by the single love of the many-tongued God. I love you, Lucille Clifton. Okay. So I'm going to skip over Katrina. The poem that I've included is by Patricia Smith, who just won the National Book Award. And it's a persona. All the books in this collection called Blood Dazzler are told from the perspective of different characters, a dog that was left chained behind during the hurricane, different people, and even the voice of the hurricane itself. And they're very powerful poems. She got a lot of flack because she wasn't actually in New Orleans when the hurricane struck, but it's a powerful collection, and I recommend it, including this poem Superdome, which is told in the voice of the Superdome. Very, very damning voice.
She just read at Smith in November, and also another former poet laureate of the United States, Natasha Trethewey, also has written extensively about Hurricane Katrina.
Yes. I think she's coming somewhere, or was she just there?
She was just at Yale.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
By Nikki, yeah.
That's right. Okay, moving on here. We're going to skip Obama, I think, too, but Black Lives Matter. This we cannot miss. This is the whole Black Lives Matter movement started in 2013 after Trayvon's murderer, George Zimmerman, was acquitted. Soon thereafter, Mike Brown was murdered by Ferguson police. And that's when the Black Lives Matter really took shape across the country. I want you to, this is an amazing poem, Jericho Brown, who also read here in Ridgefield a couple of years ago at the Aldrich. Yeah, I don't even have to describe this poem. You will hear it.
Wonderful.
Bullet points. I will not shoot myself in the head, and I will not shoot myself in the back, and I will not hang myself with a trash bag. And if I do, I promise you, I will not do it in a police car while handcuffed or in the jail cell of a town I only know the name of because I have to drive through it to get home. Yes, I may be at risk, but I promise you, I trust the maggots who live beneath the floorboards of my house to do what they must to any carcass, more than I trust an officer of the law of the land to shut my eyes like a man of God might, or to cover me with a sheet so clean my mother could have used it to tuck me in. When I kill me, I will do it the same way most Americans do. I promise you, cigarette smoke, or a piece of meat on which I choke, or so broke I freeze in one of these winters we keep calling worst. I promise, if you hear of me dead anywhere near a cop, then that cop killed me. He took me from us and left my body, which is, no matter what we've been taught, greater than the settlement a city can pay a mother to stop crying, and more beautiful than the new bullet fished from the folds of my brain.
Yeah, Jericho Brown is amazing. Okay, a Pulitzer Prize winner. That poem is from his collection, The Tradition, which won the Pulitzer Prize. I'm going to let you read the other poems. Just amazing poems. This one for Trayvon Martin, the poet tells it from the perspective of like an angelic being who guides Trayvon Martin home safely and right to his doorstep, and he lives, and it's so heart-wrenching. And then Pulled Over in Short Hills, New Jersey, 8:00 a.m. by Ross Gay, who most people know by his wonderful essay books that have come out late, very uplifting books of essays, but another wonderful poem about what it's like to be Black and pulled over anytime, not just at night. I love the last lines where my hand massaging. I imagine things I don't want to, and inside beg this to end before the shiver catches my hands, and he sees, meaning the cop sees, and something happens. It's just having that possibility is so awful a thought to have to live daily with, and to have to raise your children to deal with if you're Black in America. The COVID crisis, the pandemic, of course. This is a wonderful story told by a doctor who tells it from the story of a nurse who was an essential worker, and just seeing their own child through a living room window as opposed to in person. It's hard to remember those days, that they were only a few years ago, but they were. The overturn of Roe v. Wade. This is the last time I'm gonna play this. This is I love spoken word poetry. This is when you go to a slam event. This is the Brave New Voices poetry competition, slam poetry competition. In addition to reading single poems singly, you also do a team event where all the members of a team contribute to making the poem and then performing the poem. And this one is called Roe, 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 Roe v. Wade. And it's not in your packet, but it's pretty incredible.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. This song is about taking control. Your life, your choice. Don't go with the flow. You're in charge of your boat. You've got your hands on the oars, or this song is different because you're a woman. Row, row, Roe v. Wade is about control over your body. Pro-life, pro-choice, two extremes in the same American boat. Except boats are named after women, and ours was capsized, overturned, despite our boat taking centuries to build and having held us for half of one. Now you are expected to do the holding. A woman's arms, expected to cradle an unwanted child gently down the stream. But no stream is always gentle. In a storm, it can be raining cats and dogs. But the raining men are the real animals. Women have always braved troubled waters and can't seem to catch a break. It should be her choice if her water...
Oh, what happened? He got kicked off.
We're all kicked off? What happened?
We're all still here.
Just the two of us?
We're all
Yeah.
here, yeah.
Well, all of us are still here, it seems.
I think maybe they just set the time for the hour and a half that it was
The Zoom
supposed to be,
yes.
and
That's-
maybe the Zoom ran out, but
That's
I don't
probably
know.
exactly right.
No, that shouldn't happen. I think the Zoom could just go on forever.
Well,
But
maybe.
perhaps that is the case.
Barbara seems to be missing, though. Barbara herself seems to be missing.
Yeah, maybe something happened on her end.
And then next we can write about Zoom, can't we?
Chuck, can you check on
Yeah,
Barb?
no, I did. She said her computer died.
Oh,
no.
rats.
Here she comes. Hold on.
All right.
That's a story.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
Hi,
But thank you
Barb.
for coming. It was pretty near the end anyway.
It's
Okay.
Barb, you're fabulous.
Oh,
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you,
coming.
Barb. You were wonderful.
program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Email me if you need the past packets or if you want links to the recordings. So thank you for coming. Lucy, Ridgefield Library, thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you and we love you.
Thank you, Barb.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
More. Thank you. Wow.
Incredible night.